Hi and welcome for this new webinar about Panorama Suite features. Today we are talking about Ergonomics HMI and application design. Please ask a question in the Q&A pane in the corner of the window, and you can hide and show it using the question mark on the pane. We will try to answer at the end of the webinar. You only see your own questions and not those for the other attendees. At the end, there is also a poll survey to get your feedback about the webinars and way to improve them and to target your needs. Today, this webinar, there's no need to present our most experienced Panorama expert who will deal with the demo today. Thanks to François, thanks to you again for helping us for this presentation. And thanks to Selim Muju, who is hidden right there, our UI UX designer who is involved in this project since a year. And of course, I am Julian, I lead the webinar. So, the agenda. Firstly, we'd like to explain the reasons why we decided to present this topic today and where it's come from, what we need, what are our needs. We currently are dealing with the HMI design, and we just want to share our experience and studies and applications in Panorama SQL. We will see our way to HMI design cross a major tool. Its name is the system design. So I present part of our Panorama system design. And as usual, François will present you how to build things in a demo using the new HMI component features in Panorama. And at the end, we will give you a summary and a conclusion. So let's start. Why this webinar? There are two main reasons. So the first one is the new HMI feature in Panorama SQL, the HMI components. It uses the same mechanism, the behaviors and the benefits of the traditional components. But it deals with the side of the process viewer, also known as supervise. Using Panorama Studio, you build models and declare instances in the views and in the workstation and user group. And now you really can invest time in designing things like buttons, which will be reused many times in your projects. Of course, this not only deals with buttons, but also with menus, commands, grouping behavior, navigations, user management interfaces, and many more. Anything you can reuse in many applications. The second reason is the feedbacks of your feedbacks, the customer feedbacks regarding the Panorama Experience demo, which express a real need concerning the design and some concrete real projects of our customers. So now we can build and reuse flexible and ergonomics, but what does it mean? In Panorama Experience, demo was built with the help of a company specialized in the design, and now we have to learn things about HMI design and improve our skills. So we use sources, and we already know things like Abnormal Situation Management Consortium, EEMUA, and some regulations about design and information needed in Mimics. And there is also another way, the UI UX design world, with some best practice and based on connected science. So I spent times on books and spent times with Selim, and François built some reusable components for the delivered standard demo we will see in the demo. Through both approaches, we quickly found that we need to define and recenter our needs linked to HMI components, some HMI we can deliver to our customers. So the first is to design and simplify the use case. So we have to define essential needs like buttons, layout, and pop-up, some navigation behaviors, etc. and event tools which are simple to use, but not mandatory, simple to build, but really easy to use. And what will be a good design in this case? The second step is the real need is to make some reusable and generic objects which can be used in many applications, some real basics objects, some real basic behavior. And we have to design and build fine-tuned behaviors like mouse over application or embedding things. So we bring several visual elements together, even in separated components. We have to manage this in our developing logic, and build a kind of standardization up to a consistent visual identity. So we have to design a visual identity too. And of course, to build some, how to say that, the visual evolution, so it's a modern and better synthesis of information, increase readability to reduce eye strains during prolonged use of the HMI, to make or to improve the productivity, to reduce human errors, misunderstandings, or treatment duration delays. So we will see how to process on the next step. Our studies lead us to this mimic we built, so splitting the way you imagine the softwares. There is a consumer side. It's more intuitive, entertaining, and led by behavior. It's for time-consuming applications like Spotify, like YouTube, etc. There is another way to use softwares is the office automation, the business tools, which are versatile, recurrent, and widespread use. And the third corner is for specific softwares which requires precise and sharp skills and some use case. And if you place Panorama Studio, which depends on the use, so maybe place between a kind of office and an expert tool, but built application, the Panorama Suite projects you may build using Panorama, can be anywhere in this triangle. As a result from this design, there are two kinds of directions. You can have user-friendly interfaces, which are easy to use tool. And on the other side, you have a powerful, fully flexible, high-detail tool that even requires to be trained. Those are meanings how software are categorized. This radar is an animation between the regulations, recommendations versus domains and size of the installations. We are dealing with some standards like EPBD, and which deals with the power, energy consumption, and the building management system, and also on the big size applications and buildings. The already known abnormal situation management, which deals mainly with oil and gas at any size of applications and installations. EMUA and ISA. I'd like to present the Panorama system design, which deals with all of those recommendations, but partly. On the other side, the approach is the UI UX design. Everything is designed before the build. It's not often the same in the Scada applications. The tools are mainly wireframes to build the layout and the size of the elements on the screens and interaction and the place of the interactions. There is a second tool which often used is the user journey. Is a way to make chronology and step-by-step behaviors. This facilitates the pattern sequences behaviors, and this defines the way you go through pages and the information you need to go on several pages. Of course, if you have to go back and copy things on the paper to fill a form after, it will be a problem. So it's a way to design pages, sequences, and maybe sometimes build wizards. And the last part is a tree view, kind of mind maps to understand and display the needs. You already know those approaches on the abnormal situation management, which deals with the tree view of the application and the way to interact with the pages. And of course, there are also plenty of other tools based on UI and UX design. And we choose one to be presented today, is the system design. So we decided to present you methodology we followed because this one is important, even essential, and yet accessible base to build your design. And also, this tool fits well with Panorama approach and our technical profile. It's a good beginning that requires an improved thinking. Design system is flexible, open, and visual graphic that guides you and does not restrict you to things. It's living, it evolves all along the Mimix build, and it's completely completed by the designers. It's of course agnostic, that doesn't fit to a particular software. You can use it for your website basically, and of course for designing your industrial applications. And it's based on an atomic design. This is the next step. What is an atomic design? An atomic design is like an object-oriented programmation. I think you are familiar with this when you use Panorama. Atoms are teeny parts of the design. It's a color, it's a shape, it's a space. Atoms are gathered together in molecules, then in organisms, then in templates, then in pages. Yes, of course, because the atomic design was firstly designed for websites and users interfaces. And also, this behavior fits to Scada, HMI, and of course to Panorama SQL. So you build and aggregate objects to build layout and bigger objects. And sometimes realistic objects are not satisfactory to your needs. And you use other molecules or add atoms to improve the resulting object. That's why it's a living and open tool. And this implies to design upstream. This is a part of our system design we built for Panorama, and is the easiest part to understand because the easiest part of design is based on colors and shapes. So the color is to reduce eye strain, and the shapes and the color are basics in a Scada because it deals with alarms. So we define elements, basics, colors, which means information for actions, for activity or locked object or locked actions, and based on light and dark theme. And also we needed to define the alarm colors, which will be separated colors, visual separated colors, and we build shapes which has rounded borders and specific shapes to be relevant for alarm actions. We also provide and recommend to use colorblind once again. We recommend that we design the colors for colorblindness friendly, because sometimes in some domains colorblind people are not allowed to use some tools, so it's not incorporated in recommendations. But in some building management system, you can have this problem, and we should provide recommendations that allow those users to use our softwares. So the color is associated to elements for background and assurance, and there is no real consensus between those recommendations. It deals also with abnormal situation management, but with recommendations from the UI and UX design. So recommendations and rules often complement each other. Most of you may recognize this slide. This is an existing sales presentation slide, which is modified, transformed to fit our HMI components. You build things using basic subjects in Panorama and using atomic design and system design according to Panorama principles. So you imagine building buttons, tabs, navigation behavior, layouts, custom list generations, selection or grouping tools, the customization of the display for each user or for each profile, and so on. All benefits are the same as the traditional Panorama components. This is a screenshot from a Panorama project used in our training. It's a fictitious factory for learning, and we applied our system design on it to test, adapt, and complete the living tool of the system design. So this basic mimic is a good dashboard presenting useful information, synthesis, KPIs, etc. There is no priority in information. Bullet behaviors changes. Trends colors may reveal some or obfuscate things. So we already talked about colors, and we'll just see the result for this application to refresh the layout and the HMI. So applying the system design from Panorama, we kept the same information, but we are applying the design rules. Some parts are well balanced. We put headers on the production and on the storage, and the gap between the parts are not the same to make a visual, unaware grouping in your head between Coca-Cola and Coca-Cola Zero at each part, where logistics is split to another one. And you can note that the trends color are clearly meaningless. Their job is only to separate the trends line. And everything is based on the dark theme. In this second sample, we show you the light theme of our system design. You may know it's the Panorama Experience demo, which was based on our system design. At this time, we were helped by a company specialized in industrial HMI design. And note that the colors previously chosen, colors remains the same, and especially the blue, which means a measure or an action available, and of course the alarm colors at the end. So now let's take a look inside the Panorama tools to know how to build things like that. François, you ready?
Yes. Okay, so you are probably familiar with this demo. It is extracted from the standard Panorama demo. We use it to show the ISM guidelines applied to Panorama. So in this demo, we use workstation components already. We have here tabs components on the left and on the right, used to navigate in the application. And for instance, if I want to reach turbine number 3, I click here, and I see that my turbine number 3 has an alarm. You can see the icon here showing that it's a high severity alarm, and it's been designed according to the design rules that Julien has just explained. The problem in this application now is that to find this alarm, to look at this icon, we need to know in which tab to click, and on the left and on the right. And so what we will do together today is add some new icons to help the user to navigate. We will add some icons in the tabs to show him which are the tabs showing views with alarms for the wind turbines, but also here summary icons for the full turbine and also summary icons for the farm. Okay, so let's go now into Pano Studio. So first step, into Pano Studio, we will create this new alarm component. So it's an alarm flag component, but it's a workstation component. This workstation component only needs as an input the current high severity of the alarms, which will be an integer provided by the highest alarm priority. So alarm severity. It's an integer, and it's a real-time value. And this will now drive in a view an animation. So first thing, we're going to draw the icons corresponding to our alarm status, alarm severity. So let's start with a rectangle that needs to be, for instance, 22 by 22. We need to rotate it 45 degrees. We need to round it square. We need to remove its border and use, from the color palette that was introduced by Julien, the low severity color. Okay, so now we need to add the circle for average priority severity and the triangle for high severity. So I've done this already in a component before the demo. So I've got now my 3 icons, and here an invisible force icon that will be replacing these 3 when no alarm is present on the element corresponding to this icon. So these 4 icons will be grouped. They will be named one by one with these funny names, #0, 1, 2, and 3, which will allow Panorama, using a replacement animation, to display the symbol corresponding to the alarm severity. This configuration is done here. So it's grouped and animated here by a replacement animation of numerical type. It's the numerical value that selects this icon by its name, and it's driven by the property we just created, providing the alarm severity. Okay, so this component, workstation component, is ready to be used, so I can delete the temp view where I showed you the 4 symbols. And we're going to now use that new object, in our tabs. So the tab component is a component using a child component called tab here. So I'm going to modify the tab to add the icon. So my 8 tabs will inherit from this modification. So I need to instantiate my alarm flag here. I need to link my property to the tab property providing this information, which is the current alarm level. And I need to place the view where I've got a bit of space here in the tab. Okay, if now we look at my full tab component, as you can see, all the tabs have now the icon. The tab component already had its current alarm level property, as you saw, and it is already linked to the component current alarm level 1 to 8 properties. And so for the tabs, we're ready. We finished the job. Now we want to add also icons for the summary view of the turbine and the summary view of the farm. So I go into the summary view of the turbine. It's this view here. So previously I have instantiated this alarm flag component. I have placed it here above the turbine here. So it's already linked to the alarm severity of the turbine. So job is done. And for the farm, the high-level view of the farm here has also a component pre-instantiated, so I make it present. It is also linked to the farm alarm severity. So again, job done. We just need now to restart the HMI. I save my changes. I do not have to restart Composer because we only modified HMI components. And here now, we can see our new icons everywhere because this demo has many arms. And so on the North Farm, if we click here, we can see that on clicking on turbine 2, we see a fault. On clicking on turbine 7, we see a fault. East Farm, turbine 3, and we find our fault very easily now. Okay, that's the principle of this workstation component. As you could see, you can make reusable bits of HMI. They can be related to the process, or they can just be pure navigation or pure HMI elements. For instance, here, this trend object here is also a workstation component. We can go here in my main view. This comes from the trend object here. The trend object is a workstation component. If I press F12 on my keyboard, it's embedding the feature of the trend for this demo here, and it's ready to reusable. It just needs to use drag and drop from value to plots on the legend here, and it's reusable. Okay, Julien, finished?
Thanks, François. So just before the ending, I'd like to name the tools we usually use in the design. So personally, with Selim, we use a Miro application. Miro gathers several tools. This one is a mind map used for designing this webinar, and you may organize the tree view of your apps and the complete navigation using this kind of tools. Be careful, think about the confidentiality of your projects first, because it's an online tool. And the second tool I'd like to present you is Figma. It's the tool used by our designer partner to create Panorama experience demo interfaces. So it deals with both. It deals with the three design of the application according to the production of chocolate, to the building management system, and to the water treatment installation. So, as conclusion, some reminder. For designing this webinar, we based our thinking about books is based on the design of everyday things by Donald Norman. I'd like to recommend again Bill Holyfield about two books we already used in the previous webinar, which is the Effective Operator Display Design by the ASM Consortium, and the other one is the High Performance HMI Handbook, also written by Bill Holyfield and his team. The last one is the Atomic Design, is the approach we use for building the design system, which was written by Brad Frost, and it's a complete step-by-step explanations in designing atoms, molecules, and so on. I just presented previously Figma the tool, and there is also a blog which gives you information about the cognitive science and UX rules, like steps, like gathering the meanings, etc. The other one is near Figma. It's another tool. It's App Invision. It's a tool, an online tool, which also has a blog with some information about design and recommendations. The third online tool I'd like to present to you is Typescale. Typescale is a way to fit the fonts on the screen according to priority, like headers on website. It's mainly designed for this, but you can use it also, this tool to size, to make your font fit to your HMIs. The last online tool I like to recommend is a contrast checker. Is the way to how to say that, to note, to evaluate the readability of text according to the font, to the color of text and the background color. And also through the our research, we found another guide, a process HMI guide based on the Rockwell automation recommendations, which were designed, which is also a near abnormal situation management, but with a process management point of view, and not only about alarm management system. So, as conclusion, to sum up the presentation, we present tools to design HMI, so two approaches, the industrial one and the UI and UX design. And those approaches are not opposing, but are complementary purpose. And this webinar is to raise your awareness about those elements. It's not a training. And of course, we use those tools in Panorama, and especially in our system design. And it helps to make the elements, the visual elements, easier, ergonomics, accessible to everyone. To be successful, this approach has to be integrated in the design of the project, both the HMI and the navigation, and not during the real build of the application with the presented tools like Miro, like tree views, etc. So, in the same ways as the classical components, the HMI components behavior allow to factorize, to simplify not the physical equipment or a machine, but rather a particular use, a particular behavior, like filtering a list, modifying a trend, selecting things like the trends in this demo. Make customization of the layout of the color according to a profile. And I thank you all for participating and helping for this presentation, especially François and Selim. And so we now are dealing with your questions, and I'd like you to launch the survey and read your questions. So please wait a minute. Thanks. This webinar is now finished, so please subscribe and see you soon.